If any of you guys remember, I don't, back in the early 2000s, there were very few independent artists. And the reason for that was, well, put simply, the equipment cost too much. Keep in mind, back then, in order to record music, you needed an interface and an EQ and an analog compressor and a good pair of headphones and a microphone, which cost way more back then. And assuming you can scrape up all the money for all of this stuff, how are you going to handle promotion? You still have to make CDs. You still have to do, the whole 9 yards as far as getting your music out to people. Social media didn't exist back then. Streaming didn't exist back then. It was CDs and ads on TV and placement on radio stations, movies, and fucking MTV. Marginally more recently, now that streaming exists and people are making music in their bedrooms, companies have realized that there's an enormous market in making small, single, one-person sized interfaces and selling them to people with dreams of making music. I got my first interface roughly 2.5 years ago, and it was the Scarlet Solo 2nd generation. This has been a very reliable interface, and I'm very sad to say it is no longer in use. The reason for this being, my cousin recently got his hands on a box of computer equipment for very, very cheap. And in this box of computer equipment was an AT2020 condenser microphone and a Behringer UMC 22 interface. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this was 100% an impulse purchase. I don't particularly regret it though, and to be completely honest, I think it might be one of the best purchases I've made in a long time. Upon looking into it a little bit, what I got is some really good beginner equipment. The mic's for a different video though. Today, we're pinning the Behringer UMC 22 against the Focusrite Scarlet Solo 2nd generation. Full disclaimer, before we get into this, I am very aware that there is a 3rd and 4th generation of the Scarlet Solo interface out right now. And the reason why I'm not making a video on those ones is, well, I don't have them. While I have used the 3rd generation multiple times, I have very little insight into what the 4th generation sounds like. Am I likely to buy either of them? No. Why? We'll get into that in a second. But before we do, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I promise I'll have more of it in the near future. Up until this point, you've been hearing me through the Behringer UMC 22. For the remainder of this section, at least, you will be hearing me through the Scarlet Solo 2nd generation, at least while I talk about it. This interface has an all-metal jacket with plastic plates on the front and back. The knobs are a lot sturdier than I expected, and there is a button to toggle on and off phantom power, a switch to toggle on and off the line input for a guitar or a synthesizer or whatever you wanted, and there is a switch to do something with the headphones. I'm not entirely sure what it does. Actually, that might be a monitoring switch. Hold on, let me try something. So, I have an embarrassing confession for you guys. I've owned this interface for 2 years, and, you see, I kinda didn't realize there was a monitoring switch on it the whole fucking time. There is one drawback to this interface, though, over the UMC 22, and that would be it has the little red and yellow cable inputs on the back instead of the inputs for, modern studio monitors. Otherwise, I don't really have a ton to say about this interface. I accidentally broke it when I went over to my grandpa's one time, but that just gave it character more than anything. I popped the piece right back into place and haven't really had any issues with it since. I thought I did, but apparently I'm just a retard and didn't realize that solo interfaces like this, the mic's pan by default. Yeah, did you know that? Me neither. I will say I like the sound of the third generation a lot more than the sound of the second generation. The reason for that being, I don't know what it is, but it just has a more clean, polished sound to it that is kind of addictive. The third generation also has those inputs for monitors that I was telling you guys about, and the fourth generation has those along with, I believe, MIDI inputs and outputs, and I could be wrong, so don't quote me on this, but I think it also has analog inputs. I don't have a problem with this interface at all. I actually quite like the third generation and the fourth generation. The reason why I wouldn't buy these specifically is because I have my eyes on something else, but that's for another video. Here I am back with the Behringer, and I think what I like about this interface the most is that you get a very crisp, clean sound from your vocals. I don't know if it boosts the high ends or what it does, but you get a crazy, clean, crisp, beautiful vocal from this. This interface also has a metal jacket with plastic plates on the front and back, and while the knobs are a little bit more loose, showing you that this is indeed a cheaper interface, like I said, you get a very clean, almost professional sound from your vocals, something that's just ready for a platform like YouTube. There are two features that this interface has that, in my opinion, gives it the victory. The first one, monitor outputs. That's right, if you want to really bump your new song that you just spent so long working on and worked so hard to complete, you can do it with this interface. The other thing that I love is it has a hybrid mic input, meaning it has the line-in port, but it also has the XLR port. Overall, whichever interface you decide to go with, you might not even decide to go with this interface, but whichever one you do decide to go with is your choice, man. I'm going to be upgrading here soon, like I said earlier in this video, and that's going to be a little surprise coming soon. Who knows, maybe a little Christmas special or something. Anyway, that about does it for this video. I'm going to have to wrap it up here, but that's just about everything you need to know if you're an artist like me who just wants an interface that'll do the trick. Later on down the road, you are going to want to purchase something a little bit more expensive, but please wait to do that until you're confident that you at least know what sounds good and what doesn't. That was my biggest mistake in my early years of creation. You'll know when that time comes. I promise you, there's an interface out there somewhere for you. Have a good rest of your day, y'all. Peace.